Hi, everybody, and welcome. It's like speed dating. We're just going to boom, boom, boom. Thank you for taking some time to meet us. I'm Michael Doyle. I'm the doctor, the medical director at Connecticut Fertility, which is a full-service fertility clinic that's located primarily in Connecticut, where our IVF lab is, but has an office in Manhattan, where I see patients on 55th Street, and has a global presence in the sense that we have offices in Barcelona, which Juan runs, as well as London and Tel Aviv. And the reason that we have that presence is because we do almost only egg donation and surrogacy, and international surrogacy is growing in as many ways as US surrogacy. We've been a clinic for 22 years. We had the privilege of helping many, many families. That's resulted in over 5,000 babies. We've really been working with gay and single dads for the last 15 years, and over 500 babies from that. So I feel like our approach is in many ways very, very cutting edge based on the technology we have with the success rates we have, which are really good. But it's also, I think, a part of a context or a perspective that for the last 10 to 15 years we've learned about longer term thinking for gay dads that might only, instead of being focused on we just want to have a baby, to how many children do you want to have, how many embryos do we want to create from which dad, do we want to store extra embryos, do you want to freeze some of the eggs that we take from your donor now and actually just freeze them unfertilized, so that when you are 3 or 4 or 5 years down the road in ways that are hard to connect to right now, one of you might be able to use those eggs for a sibling that you might not otherwise be able to have. Maybe you'll donate them back to your donor, which a lot of our dads do when your family's created. There's ways to use all these eggs that we create in ways that we're striving to be as ethical and transparent as possible with, rather than just create 16 embryos, have 2 kids, and discard the other 14. I think the one thing that differentiates our donor program the most, our egg donor, is it's in-house. We almost only use our donors that we meet, we screen. Jamie's going to speak in a moment as a geneticist. Sharon's the nurse coordinator. We do all the in-house testing, and they have to pass a pretty rigorous screening barrage before we offer them as a candidate. And as you look at donor matching options, you'll find that that's a model that some clinics use. An alternative model is just match first and then do the testing and see if she passes, and if she doesn't, pick someone else. I think the farther away you get from a medical clinic with an in-house donor to a non-medical agency with a kind of a internet-based database, the more you'll find that the testing becomes more and more of an issue. So pre-screening the donors up front, I think, is really, really important. The last thing I'll say is we also tend to have an attitude about known donations, which is different from the norm. In the US anyway, about 85% of the egg donations are anonymous. They're strictly anonymous, which means you don't meet the donor, she doesn't meet you, and you don't share communication. In fact, many clinics spend a lot of time and energy making sure that you don't meet each other, and there's actually steps taken on the day of the retrieval, and so it's crazy. But I'd say 90% of our egg donations are non-anonymous. I don't force my values or tell you what you should do, but I find that when we give the donors the option to meet the person or people they're donating to or not, and do the same with the parents, it turns out that almost everyone, especially a family that's going to be raising a child or couple without a mom in the house, are just looking for the most transparent and informed process from which to choose. So patients and parents come to work with us sometimes for that reason more than others. Even the donors, I have donors that come to CT Fertility, Connecticut Fertility, they'll drive over 3 hours to get to us and skip the other 5 clinics on the way, who don't allow them the security that I think they feel, and the pride that they feel, the connection that they feel to the egg donation process, which they get from like meeting you, not hanging out with you and Facebooking you, that's not what they're looking at. They're 23-year-old women but they do have an awareness that this is an amazing thing, and it's about connecting all the people in transparent ways that honor the egg donor in this case. And so I feel like our program is very, very based on not just informing you of the risks or giving you a lot of data, but letting you participate in the choices. You have a lot of choices. That's the biggest thing that's changed. I mean, obviously technology too, but there's a lot more choices. They're your choices, and you have to be guided through them so that you make the one that's right for you. How many embryos to put in. All the things everyone's talking about today are definitely choices. But I think the first thing you have to do is decide the couple people you're going to trust to guide you, and then let them guide you in the way that they describe. That's authentic, that's transparent, that's ethical. Obviously it results in a baby or twins if that's your choice, but that kind of honors not just the goal, but everybody's role in the process. Now, Jamie's a geneticist, so it wouldn't surprise you that our egg donation program, which he's the director of, is going to be much more slanted toward health and genetics and science, and then pretty and some or blonde hair or some of the other ways that you can differentiate different women. But I want Jamie to maybe talk a little bit about that.
The donors aren't pretty.
No, yeah, but they don't have genetic disorders.
Yeah, so we think we were just saying this before, how your child, half of the genes come from you, but the other half comes from the donor. So it's a very, very important decision to make. So we want to have services available where we're available to you. Maybe you have something in your own family history that you're concerned about, or that may pose a risk for a pregnancy or a child. Genetic testing of dads is something you might say, well, I want to get screened and see if I carry genes for any disorders that might pose a risk for a future pregnancy. So that's something I help people talk through. Obviously, with respect to the donors, as Dr. Doyle has said many times, many donor applicants are not accepted into the pool for various reasons. Maybe they have a significant family history of some disorder that would really be too concerning. Maybe they have an infectious disease issue or a background issue. Maybe they have a genetic testing result that isn't favorable or that would really increase your risk for something. So our point in our in-house program with donors is really to try and get as much of this done ahead of time. All the screening that we can do ahead of time really is helpful, because when you're matching with that donor, you already know she talked to a genetics person, she got her family history analyzed carefully, she's had a lot of genetic testing, she's had her fertility evaluation done already. As Dr. Doyle was saying before about the outside agencies, maybe the donor is pretty and looks good on paper, but has she really passed all of her medical screening? And most of the time with outside agencies, she hasn't. And then you just run the risk that maybe something will come up. Obviously, we work with outside donor agencies, and many times it goes beautifully, but the chance is there that something might come up that's really disappointing. So I think since you have so many decisions to make and so many things to think about, a lot of people benefit from just having reassuring news about, yes, your donor has had screening, and this looks good and that looks good, just so you can feel more secure in your decision, to match with that donor. If you have different donors you're thinking about, but you have genetic questions about each, we want to provide you those answers so that you really make the decision about matching with the donor that you're most comfortable with. Oh yeah, so the other thing that's really big with us is we want to tailor our program choices to what might be good for you. So if you're a two-dad couple, you really want to have twins, one from each of you, then we'd really encourage you to do a full cycle and kind of start with as many eggs from that donor as you possibly can, because there's two of you, so you want to have a lot to work with. And so for us, that's usually a cycle where you get 15 to 20 eggs, so you can split them, you and your partner, and odds are you'll have really good quality embryos from both of you. Sometimes we fertilize some from one dad, some from the second dad, and maybe save some eggs frozen and just see what happens with the other attempts. And maybe one of the dads needs more eggs, maybe you don't, maybe you have twins right away and you don't need those frozen eggs anymore, you can release them back. So there's a lot of options that way. if you're a single dad and you say, I really just want one child only, I don't think twins is really what I want, you may not need that 15 to 20 eggs that the two-dad couple does. And so we offer other options like shared cycles where you might just get 10 eggs from that donor instead of 15 to 20. We have a frozen egg bank as well. I think ideally we think of fresh eggs as more optimal than frozen eggs, but certainly we've had a lot of beautiful babies born from frozen egg cycles, and it's a good backup plan. I mean, maybe you do have, you know, your cousin is agreed to be your donor, but she's a little bit on the older side and she starts her stimulation and it's not going so well, but you have a surrogate ready, so you really don't want to waste this opportunity. Frozen eggs, you know, if you look through profiles and you find someone that looks good to you, I mean, they can be thawed and fertilized and your cycle can keep on the same timeline that you planned on. So a frozen egg bank is a sort of a great backup option should anything come up that, you know, that challenges your cycle. Usually doesn't happen, but it's still good to have a backup plan, you know, just in case. Sharon is our nurse coordinator. So basically when you find your surrogate and your donor, she kind of makes it all happen as far as setting up everything, screening and things like that. So maybe you want to say a few words about your role.
Okay, as Jamie said, my role is the nurse coordinator. So once you are matched with a donor and a carrier, I basically guide you and all of them through the screening process from the beginning until you're pregnant and through the first trimester. But going back to what Dr. Doyle said also about our own donor pool, I think I like to view myself as kind of like the team mom for all our donors. I develop a relationship with them so that they can trust me and they can call me or text me anytime if they're concerned or confused about, even though they had an injection class, we make sure they've had that before they start. But just to be there for them, to guide them, because a lot of these girls are young and they get nervous about certain things or are concerned about things at certain times through the cycle. So I'm there for them 7 days a week. They know they can call or text me or email me anytime, and I'm there for them to guide them, help them, support them through the process. But I will do that for you and your surrogate as well when you're matched. But the girls are younger usually, and they're the ones that usually need a little more support. But on your end, being a man, you know, I get it where you are. Even though I'm not a man, you don't have eggs, you don't have a uterus, and you're depending on 2 other women to make your child. So there's concerns and things like that you might come up with, and they're for you too. So if you email me on a Sunday afternoon, say I'm so nervous about this, or I just need to talk to you, I'm at the point in my life where I can drop everything, no kids at home anymore, and I'll call you from home. And I do a lot of talking from my kitchen table, and actually enjoy that because it's during a time where, you know, the office hours aren't so busy, and I can take the time to really hopefully keep your emotions and your fears and concerns at a nice low level.
I know today has to seem, or could seem really overwhelming because there's just like information overload for some people, but there are lots of different faces and people firing these things at you. But I think the biggest like take-home message is like this is totally doable wherever you do it, whichever clinic you choose and whatever agency you choose. And frankly, if you choose to work without an agency, as some of our clients do, if you find your own surrogate, there are ways that you're at risk for lack of certain support if you become your own project manager, but we certainly work with families that do that too. But however you get to it, I just think what you're doing today is really important, which is informing yourself, and informing yourself, and this is like a huge trust exercise, like trusting yourself to listen to your comfort levels and your instincts, trusting the professionals, you know, based on whatever it is their experience or their support team or whatever. There's lots of different ways to differentiate clinics and agencies, and ultimately trusting the process, because really this isn't rocket science anymore. This works. In our clinic, over 80% of people get pregnant with their first try. I don't want to say it's simple, but I also think because the good news is it's gotten so good, or at least in some places, you can focus your energy on, if you want to worry, which everyone likes to worry a little bit, I think, about something, if you can focus on the relationship that you have with the surrogate, you can build a relationship to whatever extent or not with the egg donor, but you can engage in positive, affirmative, non-exploitive kind of energy that doesn't have to be competed with by the fear of what if this happens, or what if it doesn't work, or what if I never have a baby, because the statistical likelihood of those kinds of things, especially if you make good informed choices from the very beginning, and we're not the only clinic, but if you work with the right, whatever clinic is right for you, but just people that have done this 1,000 times before, it's pretty exciting. I can congratulate you all, you're going to be dads, and it's just a question of choosing the journey or the path that feels right to you and affirms the things that you're looking to affirm. Anybody have any questions? I'm surprised we haven't gotten kicked out. Yes,
I do.
Paul.
I'm hearing a little bit about the difference between a fresh egg process and a frozen egg process, and hearing a little bit that the fresh egg is a little bit more optimal, if you can. And I wanted to, my real question is when that is said, is it more about the likelihood of getting off to a start with a pregnancy?
Yeah,
Or
the
is it
success
about,
rate, the
or
difference.
Is it about after the fact
No,
fetal
if,
development problems?
no, it's about the fact that the implantation rate from embryos that come from frozen eggs is maybe 5 to 10% less, and that might be related to the fact that the first 10 eggs that were used were the best, and then the A and the A minus team, and then you're freezing some of the A minus team, and so the actual freezing.
So once you get to the point of a pregnancy taking
Oh
off,
yeah, you're
There's
pregnant.
no
These
increased
statistics
risk
are
for
equal
birth
fresh
defects
No.
or anything.
Okay,
like
Yeah,
thank you.
it's probably a selection bias. Now, a lot of people bank their embryos. If you just got 18 eggs and we froze them, or 18 eggs, we fertilized them and froze the embryos and didn't use any of them, then you'd have the same success rate as if it was your first fresh cycle, because we didn't use up the gold medal and the silver. You still have the highest ones. If the reason frozen cycles are generally a little lower, especially in non-egg donation cycles, is because there's a certain limit to the best of the best embryos, and they get used up first. Then you go to the middle of the barrel, and then you yeah. But I would say, especially the international clients I alluded to earlier, a lot of people create the embryos when they can and use them later on. People that are local, I think our philosophy overall is, whether it's about freezing your sperm or ICSI or PGG or PGI, it's anything. We can do all these things, and we do, but we don't do them all the time on everyone. They have to add value. Everything has a risk. No matter, there's nothing that you can do. Oh, just do it, because any push, So we do them when they make sense for the strategy that you have in place. Thanks, everyone.